long does it take to learn a language? I've got 7 days. Since I was a kid, I've always wanted to visit Japan. A lot of my favorite shows are anime, I love reading manga, and I've spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours playing video games, all of which originate from Japan. Not to mention the cuisine, the culture, the breathtaking landscapes. To me, it all seems otherworldly, and I'm finally gonna visit. There's just one small problem. I don't know Japanese. I can't read it, I can't write it, I don't speak it, I don't understand it. And I'm gonna be traveling the country alone. Becoming fluent in any language in 7 days is impossible. I realize that, but I'm hoping I can learn just enough to get by. I'll be sharing everything I learn, the resources I use, and in 8 days I'm flying to Tokyo to put my knowledge to the test. Arigatou gozaimasu! I don't even have a clue where to start. 20 essential Japanese phrases for travelers to Japan. Seems like as good a place to start as any. I was super excited to get started, but within minutes, the harsh reality of this challenge set in. There's no way I can learn how to read this. What? I'd planned on learning to read right off the bat, but staring at all the complicated characters completely overwhelmed me. None of it meant anything, I only had a week, so I skipped it entirely using Romaji to start, which is the Roman alphabet. But trust me, we're coming back to it later. Alright, let's start from the beginning. Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. Hello. That one should be easy. Arigatou gozaimasu.
ありがとうございます。
I don't sound anything like them. Mizu okudasai. My goal for day 1 was to get down some safety phrases. I wanted to memorize the universally most helpful words possible, so no matter what I could survive and maybe even enjoy the trip. Things like toire wa doku desu ka? Mizu o kudasai. Josei to iro tokimazui. Okay, maybe not that last one. Okay, so it's been about an hour. I've got 23 phrases and words that I'm working through. I want to try and get that to maybe 100 by the end of the week. Reading, I have no idea if I'll get anywhere. Even memorizing it, it's just so different. I spent that night studying my terms and trying out some apps, landing on Quizlet and Duolingo as my main two. While helpful, I quickly realized how much work was actually ahead of me. Dang it. So I was trying to just practice and recite the things I learned yesterday, the words, the phrases, and I feel like I lost most of it while sleeping. I really just need to be hitting this multiple times per day. So that's what I did. I only had a few hours per day to dedicate to learning, but I still needed to get everything into my long-term memory. I snuck in quick study sessions whenever I could, kept adding key phrases, and I also learned a bunch of foods and numbers, all of which ended up being extremely helpful. I also started working on my pronunciation, which was horrendous. I knew if I couldn't pronounce things correctly and actually be understood, everything I'd learned this week would be pointless. I found out there's some big differences in pronunciation coming from English. For starters, Japanese is a mora-timed language, meaning every character occupies the same length of time. So words like wasabi are actually pronounced wasabi. Additionally, words that are imported into the Japanese language, like hamburger, are actually pronounced closer to hambaga. Also, words I thought used an R sound, like arigato, actually use a sound I've never used. It's sort of between an R and an L, and is more like arigato.
Arigato.
It was a grind, but by day 4, I was starting to feel more confident. So I've got a good amount of words and phrases memorized now, which is super cool. I'm almost role-playing in my head how a situation could go. So I could be like, Kyoto ni ikitai, dono densha, Nihongo hanoshimosen. Iego? I'm probably overthinking this, but it's definitely fun being able to string things together rather than just knowing a word or two. Okay, so far things are going good. I'm building up a strong vocabulary. I've got a surprising amount of words and phrases memorized. The problem is as soon as I go a little off script, and try and formulate any sort of sentence on my own, it's probably wrong. And even if it's right, my confidence is so little, I would never say it. I need to learn more about the sentence structure and just how the language works as a whole. I ended up finding a phenomenal video called Learn Japanese in 4 Hours, which covers grammar, listening comprehension, sentence structure, and a lot more. With my limited vocabulary, I struggled pretty bad with listening, but it was still super helpful for filling some knowledge gaps I had. After going through this, I feel like I have a trajectory going forward, so I'm going to keep working on that, but it also means it's time to do the one thing I have been dreading, which is learning the alphabet. This is where I messed up. I should have started this sooner. It turns out Japanese writing uses 3 different scripts: hiragana, katakana, and kanji. Hiragana is the most basic, with each character representing a single sound. Katakana is typically learned next, and is used mostly for foreign words. And then there's kanji, which represents a word or concept. There are over 2,000 to learn to be considered fluent, but there's a lot more than that. There was absolutely no way I was learning kanji, but I was going to do everything in my power to master hiragana. It was intimidating. I'm on the second character and already wondering how the heck I'm going to do this. Using brute force to memorize these would have been hopeless, but thankfully there's a trick. Shout out to Japanese Pod 101 because this video 100% saved me. As an English speaker, the key to learning each character is to envision a picture that represents each sound. For instance, the character A looks like an apple, Ki looks like a key, Ku looks like a cuckoo's beak. This definitely works better with some characters than others, but it's genius. Slowly but surely, what was once gibberish is like, it makes sense. I'm definitely not fast, I am not done, but it's starting to make sense. It's starting to feel possible. This is just such a cool feeling. Hiragana consists of 46 characters, but 101 sounds due to daktens, handaktens, and digraphs. On the first day, I didn't make much progress, but kicked it into high gear for the rest of the week. Okay, so it is officially the last day of the challenge. So I've got 2 main goals for the day. The first is I just need to put more hours into learning hiragana. A lot of them I'm super close on. I'm on like the cusp of remembering them, but I just need to get in some more reps. Another thing I want to focus on today, and this is really important to me, is learning as much as I can about the culture and customs and being respectful while traveling. As much as this video is for me, I want to have the best experience possible. I want to be the type of person that people enjoy having in their country. I've learned a few things, but I really want to put at least a couple hours in to learning how to be the best guest I can. Keep in mind, this is all secondhand knowledge. I'm a foreigner, but there are a lot of things we do in the US that could be considered socially unacceptable. For instance, when you go out to eat, you don't leave a tip. You should talk quietly in public spaces like trains. You should move your backpack to your front on trains. Typically, you eat food where you get it, not while walking down the street. At places such as certain hotels, you must take your shoes off. And a lot more I didn't know about. So after a long week of preparing and cramming and even more hours studying while traveling, it was finally time to put my knowledge to the test. In 1 week, I'd mastered hiragana, learned 121 words and phrases, technically a little more since I can mix and match certain things, and my pronunciation was, well, better than day 1. Not every conversation went perfectly, but I was able to order food, check into my hotels, and communicate well enough throughout the trip. Sumimasen, Kipu Shinkansen? As far as reading goes, only certain things were written entirely in hiragana. In a 7-day crash course like this, I'm not sure it was the best use of my time, but it's a great foundation to build upon. And now for the big reveal, this is actually just part 1 of my Japan series. So if you want to see more interactions, experiences, and what it was like traveling the country alone, part 2 will be up 2 weeks from now, where my limited Japanese fails me, I'm completely helpless, and rely solely on the kindness of strangers to save me.